Hey, great morning to everybody. I'm going to get a quick video in before I get on the road. And one of the things I wanted to follow up was from last night, having a chance to watch, I don't know, about 4 hours of video and interviews and different things. So we have some opinions. At least in America, still today, we can express, for the most part, our opinions. Although cancer culture is attempting to do that, eliminate that option to be able to exercise our First Amendment right. Now, we do not have a First Amendment right to yell fire in a crowded theater, and you are responsible for what would happen if there really wasn't a fire. The media yesterday, and this is Fox Radio as I'm listening to it on the way back home, and everybody on Fox is talking about how the president needs to talk about how these people need to stand down. And I heard Bill Hemmer, even before they actually downloaded it into the Fox Theater, he had it on his computer, the message from President Trump. And that message, which was, you need to go home peacefully. You can't fall into the trap of these other people. And that message was considered to be inciting violence. And I think, well, if you are going to say that these platforms, I mean, they need to reel in these big techs. Back to what happened yesterday, though. I questioned, before I got a chance to look at all these videos, I questioned who stormed the Capitol? Who are these people? So there's a couple of interesting things that I want to remind people to think about as I hear all these other people on these big platforms to be able to tell you what happened, what you're witnessing right now. Okay. I read where these multiple Stop the Steal and organized rallies were going to take place, starting at different places throughout Washington, D.C., and they were, almost all of them were planning on ending at the Capitol. And they wanted to show a sense of, hey, look at all of us here. And it was going to be a powerful statement. The National Guard and different police departments, I read where in Muriel Bowser yesterday even admitted that she's got, ahead of time called in all of this law enforcement backup from all of these surrounding areas. Okay, where were they? That's what I was asking yesterday. And I'm not saying that the Capitol Police Department is a bad group of people, but look for the video where there is an exchange, obviously, between, where the barricade was and the Capitol Police. Look for the exchange and look at because all summer long, from so much of 2020, we've watched the police de-escalate to some extent by standing there and just being told what a rotten piece of crap they are. I watched on a tape yesterday someone who, I don't know, lieutenant, captain of the DC police, he was dressed up in an overcoat. He was definitely some officer. Walked up and sucker punched over the barrier somebody he didn't like on the other side, which then started a huge exchange. Look for that. Also look for Greg Kelly on Newsmax last night had the footage, and I'm sure it's out there, where early on, again, there's no show of force to stop this. Early on, and you say, well, why should they stop it? Why should they even have to stop it? Well, hold on. There's more to that story. But the initial break, it looks like, you can see the guy go, well, come on. The DC Capitol Police guy says, come on. And they pull the barricades open and whoop, here come the people. How many people were there? There were tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people peacefully protesting in Washington. And by some accounts, 400 to 1,000 decided to breach the Capitol. And again, breach the Capitol with an overwhelming show of force or being let in. So why do I say it like that? Because even though I'm just a guy here in Michigan that's reading about how the National Guard has already been brought in and they're on the ready to help supply support. Muriel Bowser and I read where all of these other local jurisdictions, out as far as Baltimore, they've pledged their support to come in. Where were they? It took a period of time before the DC police, not the DC Capitol Police, but the DC police showed up in riot gear. Nobody from the DC police, it was almost like, as I'm watching those tapes, they planned this. I know that's a conspiracy theory. You're going to immediately say it, but not so fast. And you can say, well, he's a partisan. But Representative Brooks was on last night, and he talked about how there was actually intel during the previous week about how intelligence agencies were telling the people that are responsible for controlling, such things like protecting the perimeter of the Congress, that Antifa and other anarchists were going to be part of that crowd. So just because somebody is painted their face red, white, and blue and is carrying a Trump 2020 flag or Keep America Great or MAGA or whatever. And I thought it was very telling when I'm listening to all of the people on Fox. And I kept thinking, because this is something that is becoming a maxim to me. When all of them are telling me what I'm seeing and why I'm seeing it, it's almost like they get a narrative. And before you think I'm really crazy, something else was pointed out last night in my 4+ hours of, trying to see everything I could to try to get an idea. What happened? At 11:04, CNN, and these guys must be like Nostradamus on steroids today. Remember, they showed up at Roger Stone's house before the SEALs, the SWAT teams did. At 11:04 yesterday, CNN had along the bottom line, GOP coup attempt. There wasn't a single thing that happened yet. I want us to question the optics of things that we're told. Well, this is what you get a chance to see. So many people, independent news sources, were taking video and reporting, town hall and daily media and different things. And I saw interviews of these people last night, and they've been everywhere this year. They've been in New York and Kenosha. They've been in Minneapolis. They've been in Portland. They've been all over. A lot of these guys do tremendous work. I mean, these guys are trying to bring the real story, not the narrative, not what mainstream media wants us to hear and see and believe and be told. This is what you need to think about this. And they had a lot of questions. And to me, the tragedy is not that our Capitol was breached. I denounce, because that's what you have to do now. You have to specifically say it. I've talked my way out of more fights than I've been in, and I've been in a lot of fights. I remember when I lost my first fight, technically, because when I was a kid, and it was playground, and in the backyard, and it wasn't until I decided to wrestle, and people that knew more about the sport than me, and being held against my will. And I hated that. And so I wanted to get better. But I've talked my way out of more fights than I've been in, and I've been in hundreds of fights. So for those of you who have not been in hundreds of fights, you have a different perspective if you've been in a fight. Something's weird about some of this stuff. And so when I'm hearing the same people that keep telling me that when I'm watching squad cars and everybody, these cities burning down, they're looting stores, they're killing people in the streets, that it's mostly peaceful protests and these people need to have their voices heard. And yet, what I see yesterday, overwhelming evidence, was that was a mostly peaceful protest. And a handful of people, and I saw the video evidence of a very small number. There was no show of force early on, and they just opened up the gates. They just opened up the barricades. Go ahead. I also saw a number of the DC Capitol Police pointing. There was one in particular, and I know you can find it because it'll still be out there, but his buddies are pulling him back like, dude, stop. But he's like, come on. That's a total different approach. And so it was what I was seeing last night was not what people were telling me. And again, I'm not saying that people were lying to me, because it is a bit overwhelming when you first hear about it. And I'm on the road and I'm not seeing it, but it's like, wow. And then the tragedy is not the breach of the Capitol grounds by a ill-prepared, even though they told us they were, they had all this backup, an ill-prepared police department. That's not the tragedy, in my opinion, even though every one of those people should be prosecuted, investigated, interrogated, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law for the vandalism and the real tragedy, which is all of those actions. And there is a woman that is dead. She served our country in the Air Force. I believe she was a mother, a wife, obviously a daughter to somebody. And whatever the last conversation she had yesterday with her parents, with her loved ones, they had no idea that she was not coming home last night. As a father of, I don't want to bury my kids. I want them to bury me. That was the most significant tragedy yesterday. Why did she get shot? Nobody was carrying a firearm. There was no firefight exchange. Somebody inside that Capitol building discharged their firearm and killed a woman who, in my opinion, I'm not there, does not sound like she was a threat to anybody. You have this call to immediate investigation and find out why this person wielding a knife, that person, that law enforcement officer that shot them, they need to be reprimanded. They need to be charged right now. None of those people in the media, this is where I really think it's so telling. None of those people in the media yesterday was demanding that information right now. All they kept telling you was how this hasn't happened since 1814 when the British burned down our capital. I'm going to do a series of videos. I mean, this is one of the best pieces of information you can get sent to you. That is something that just needs to be a video on its own. Because if you don't get it, and of the 49 people that subscribe to this channel, and not everybody watches every video, I wish they would. I feel like I'm sharing with you a great perspective. There's a couple other articles too that I need to share with you. I feel like I need to share with you, and I need to spend time trying to keep these videos as short as possible. But I also wanted to be clear about what I was hearing yesterday, what I was feeling, what I was sensing. And then after 4 hours of video review and listening to different interviews, and it being confirmed by multiple people in Congress that Intel was saying for the better part of a week that anarchists, Antifa, other people were going to be pretending to be something else in this peaceful protest. And did they carry some people with them that were true Trump supporters, that were true regular everyday Americans that gave up a day of work to get to Washington, D.C.? It's possible. Certainly it's possible. Because when you are in that setting, you become that setting. And you would do things that you otherwise would not do because you're caught up in it. And this is what mob mentality becomes. But there's also hundreds of thousands of people did not take over that Capitol. Obviously, they could have if they wanted to. And the people that did vandalize and destroy property, I hope that you are fully interrogated, investigated, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But remember this young lady, this mother, this daughter. That's the tragedy. Our prayers do go out to that family. I know many of us will continue to pray. Some other things happened last night on the news, and who knows if it's true or not. It seems to me like the news has a way, the mainstream media has a way of, you know what, I'm just going to report that and see how it grows. Judicial Watch is doing some fantastic things, uncovering the real tragedies of the dissolvement of our constitutional republic, and we're letting it happen. And let me just finish by saying, I believe Vice President Pence was incorrect yesterday. I believe Mitch McConnell was incorrect. I believe that Ted Cruz and the few people that were willing to stand up and attempt to fight for it was correct. Remember, these states have the right to be able to certify their electors and send them in. They're all stating in letters, and these numbers are big. Like in Arizona, I think it was 80 state legislators said, hey, get this back to us. We made a mistake. And Ted Cruz made a great point. If you have nothing to hide, if you're on the left and you have nothing to hide, then you should be happy about confirming that this election has an integrity base to work from and to believe in. Because according to the polls, 80% of Republicans, 30+% of independents, and different numbers, but somewhere between 15 and 30%, 20 some percent of Democrats believe that the election is not based on integrity. And so this becomes what they want, they being, we need to get this guy out of the Oval Office because he's not one of us. And what we want, and I believe this wholeheartedly, the majority of the American people, the majority of the citizens of other countries throughout the world, what they want another 4 years of the great things that this administration has been able to accomplish in the first 4 years in the face of obstruction and total hatred and lies upon lies, which another point I got to finish with, and I got to keep it under 20 minutes here. There was never a peaceful transition of power from 2016. There never was. I was wrong, and I'll admit it. I thought Mike Pence could see with clarity what so many constitutional scholars have already said, that he had the right to be able to kick that back to the states. I'm James Detroit, and for now, I'm out.